Life in the Middle Ages was rough, but people found smart ways to get through it. They didn't have much, yet they made things work. Some of what they did still matters today. Here are 10 survival tricks from the past that still work. Long before matchsticks existed, medieval people mastered creating fire with simple tools. The combination of flint and steel was the reliable pocket lighter of the Middle Ages, and this ancient method still works when modern technology fails. Flint might look like an ordinary rock, but this humble stone was literally the spark that kept civilization going. When struck against high-carbon steel, the flint would shave off tiny bits of steel that instantly burned in the air, creating life-saving sparks. You could say medieval people knew how to light up social gatherings thousands of years before electricity was invented. Those sparks needed something to catch and grow. Enter charcloth, made by burning fabric without much air. This blackened material would catch even the tiniest spark. Medieval people carried their fire-starting kit in small boxes made of wood, horn, or metal. These fireboxes were so valuable that dropping one would cause more panic than a teenager losing their cell phone at a concert. Once the charcloth caught a spark, it was moved to tinder, usually dried grasses, fungus, or fluffy plant seeds. Starting a fire back then took so much skill that it would be like today's most complicated video game, except the loading screen could last several frustrating minutes. A gentle breath would turn this smoldering nest into flames. What's amazing is how reliable this method was even in terrible weather. Excavations of medieval battlefields have found fireboxes clutched in the hands of fallen soldiers, showing how precious this tool was. Unlike modern lighters that run out of fuel at the worst moment, medieval fire starting worked as long as you had the skills. Once medieval people mastered fire, they focused on another crucial survival challenge: how to make their hard-earned food last through harsh seasons and unpredictable times. When refrigerators were still thousands of years away from being invented, medieval people needed reliable ways to keep their meat from spoiling. Salt preservation was their go-to method, and it remains effective even in our modern world of electricity and convenience appliances. The science behind salt preservation is beautifully simple. When meat is packed with salt, the salt draws moisture out through a process called osmosis. Without moisture, harmful bacteria cannot grow and multiply, which means the meat stays edible for much longer periods. Medieval butchers were essentially the first food scientists, although their lab coats were probably a lot more blood-stained. Did you know that salt was so valuable in medieval times that it was sometimes used as currency? The word salary actually comes from the Latin word salarium, which referred to money given to Roman soldiers specifically to buy salt. Towns with access to salt mines or sea salt production became wealthy trading centers, while those without salt sources had to trade valuable goods just to get this essential preservative. The preservation process required considerable skill. First, the meat was cut into manageable pieces, removing as much fat as possible since fat was more likely to become rancid. Then came the salting. Not just a light sprinkle, but a thorough coating that completely covered every surface. The salted meat was then packed tightly into barrels or crocks, often with additional layers of salt between each layer of meat. For even longer preservation, the salting process was sometimes combined with smoking or air drying. These multi-step methods created products that could last for several months or even a year without refrigeration. Sailors on long voyages relied heavily on salt-preserved meats during journeys that might last many months. Today, we still use salt preservation for making delicious foods like bacon, prosciutto, jerky, and salt pork. Modern food manufacturers might use fancy equipment and call it curing, but they're really just copying homework from medieval preservationists who figured it out centuries ago. The knowledge of salt preservation saved countless lives during harsh winters when hunting was difficult and harvested foods ran low. While fire gave medieval people warmth and cooking ability, salt gave them security against hunger during lean times. But sometimes even the best preserved food would run out, forcing people to look elsewhere for sustenance. Foraging wasn't just a desperation move, it was a routine part of medieval life. Every season offered different wild edibles that added crucial nutrition and variety to diets. Historians estimate that in some regions, forage plants made up nearly a third of a peasant family's diet during spring and summer months. The knowledge of which plants were safe to eat was considered essential wisdom, passed down through families rather than written guides. The humble dandelion was perhaps the most versatile foraged plant. Despite being considered a lawn nuisance today, every part of this common plant is edible. Medieval people ate the leaves in spring salads, roasted the roots as a coffee-like drink, and even made wine from the bright yellow flowers. They were the original zero-waste food movement, while modern homeowners spend millions trying to eradicate what medieval folks would have considered a free grocery delivery. Stinging nettles were another foraging favorite, despite their painful sting when touched with bare hands. Once boiled, the sting disappears, and the leaves become a nutritious green vegetable high in iron and vitamins. Getting stung while collecting nettles was medieval Europe's version of the hot pepper challenge. Painful, but worth it for the food. Wild fruits and berries provided rare sweetness in a world without sugar. Blackberries, elderberries, and wild strawberries were eagerly collected during summer months. Unlike modern grocery store varieties bred for size and shipping durability, these wild berries were smaller but packed with intense flavor and higher nutrients. Some forage plants serve dual purposes as both food and medicine. Chickweed helped treat minor wounds while also providing a tender salad green. Plantain leaves could be applied to insect stings or eaten as a nutritious vegetable. Young pine shoots could be chewed for vitamin C to prevent scurvy during winter months when fresh greens were unavailable. When medieval peasants foraged, they weren't just gathering food. They were practicing an advanced system of botanical knowledge that ensured survival during famines. While their preserved meat kept them going through winter, it was often these foraged plants that prevented the nutritional deficiencies that might otherwise have been common. After gathering these wild edibles, people needed efficient ways to cook them, which led to developing technologies that could transform simple ingredients into nourishing meals without modern kitchen conveniences. Enter the clay and earth oven, a brilliant cooking technology that required no electricity, gas, or manufactured parts. These simple yet effective ovens were built using materials anyone could find right outside their door. Clay ovens were constructed from a mixture of mud, straw, and clay, shaped into a dome-like structure with a single opening in the front. The construction process started with making a mound of sand in the desired shape, then layering the clay mixture over it. Once the clay hardened slightly, the sand would be scooped out, leaving the hollow oven chamber. The thermal properties of these ovens made them incredibly efficient. The thick clay walls absorbed heat from a fire built inside, then slowly released that heat over several hours. This meant medieval bakers could fire up the oven with wood until it reached peak temperature, sweep out the coals and ashes, and then bake multiple batches of bread without additional fuel. These ovens were the original slow cooker appliance, except you didn't need to read a 50-page instruction manual or deal with confusing digital settings to make them work. These earth ovens weren't just for bread. They could cook entire meals, from stews to roasts, and even preserve fruits by drying them slowly in the residual heat. Many families would designate one day a week as baking day, when the oven would be fired to its highest temperature. First, they would bake bread, then pies or pastries as the oven cooled slightly, followed by slow roasting meats or beans. The design varied across different regions. In Northern Europe, ovens were often built into the side of the home's central hearth. Mediterranean versions were frequently standalone structures in courtyards or community areas. In some villages, families would share a larger community oven, bringing their dough to be baked on assigned days. Medieval people had no takeout delivery apps when hunger struck, but their clay ovens kept hot meals flowing with remarkable reliability. No delivery fees or awkward tipping required. Today, artisanal bakers and pizza enthusiasts around the world are rediscovering these ancient ovens, building modern versions called cob ovens for the distinct flavor and even heating they provide. The centuries-old technology produces results that modern electric ovens still struggle to match. While these ovens helped medieval people cook their food effectively, they still needed ways to keep fresh food from spoiling too quickly between harvests. Could you imagine keeping your food fresh for months without a refrigerator? Medieval people mastered this challenge with root cellars, underground storage spaces that used the Earth's natural cooling properties to preserve food. Root cellars were typically dug into hillsides or built with stone walls and earthen floors. The brilliant design maintained temperatures between 45 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit year-round, regardless of outside weather conditions. In hillside versions, people dug horizontally into slopes, while flatter areas required digging down and covering the space with beams, brush, and soil. If medieval refrigerators had warning labels, they would have read, "Warning, contains dirt floor. Not responsible for vegetables that escape and replant themselves." These underground pantries perfectly stored root vegetables for 5 to 6 months when layered in straw or sand. Apples and pears wrapped individually could stay fresh for months. Even dairy products lasted longer in these cool, dark spaces. Medieval kids probably dreaded being sent to fetch vegetables from the root cellar the same way modern teenagers hate bringing groceries in from the car, except with 100% more spiders. The root cellar wasn't just storage, it was crucial risk management. Records show well-maintained root cellars could preserve enough food to sustain a family through 4 to 5 months of winter with minimal spoilage. Today, off-grid homes and sustainable living enthusiasts are rediscovering this ancient technique, proving sometimes the old ways remain the best solutions. While root cellars helped medieval people store their food, they still needed to stay warm and protected through changing seasons. Wool fibers trap air, creating natural insulation that medieval people relied on to stay comfortable in changing weather conditions. This remarkable material served as their technical gear, protecting them from cold winters to surprisingly hot summers. Each wool fiber has a water-resistant outer layer and a spongy core that maintains warmth even when wet, unlike cotton or linen. For medieval people working outdoors in unpredictable weather, this wasn't just about comfort, but survival. Medieval shepherds often spent weeks in remote pastures protected from rain and cold by nothing more than wool clothing. Their cloaks shed light rain while allowing body heat to escape during activity, working like today's expensive outdoor gear. In summer, looser woven wool fabrics allowed air circulation while wicking sweat away from the body. Medieval blacksmiths didn't have moisture-wicking athletic shirts with catchy brand names, but their wool tunics were doing the same job centuries before sports companies started charging premium prices for the technology. Wool's durability was crucial when clothing represented a significant investment. A well-made wool garment could serve for years or decades with proper care. From royal finery to peasant work clothes, wool formed the backbone of medieval wardrobes across social classes. Processing wool required considerable skill. After shearing sheep in late spring, the raw wool was sorted, cleaned, and prepared for spinning into thread, then woven into fabric on looms. Medieval teenagers probably didn't complain about wool being itchy the way modern kids might. They were too busy helping produce it to worry about leaving negative reviews online. Today, outdoor enthusiasts and military organizations still rely on wool for its remarkable properties. This ancient solution to staying warm and dry continues to outperform many synthetic alternatives, proving sometimes the oldest technologies remain unbeaten. While clothing helped protect against the elements, medieval ingenuity extended far beyond just what people wore. They also developed creative solutions for problems that we still face today in entirely different contexts. Medieval shelter building reveals one of history's most ingenious construction techniques: wattle and daub. This building method allowed people to create sturdy walls for homes using nothing but materials they could gather from their immediate surroundings. The wattle part refers to a woven lattice of thin branches. Think of it as making a giant basket in the shape of a wall. Medieval builders would start by setting sturdy wooden posts into the ground to create a frame. Between these posts, they wove flexible branches, usually hazel, willow, or oak saplings, horizontally through vertical sticks, creating a mesh-like structure that served as the skeleton of the wall. Now for the daub, a sticky mixture used to coat both sides of the wattle framework. This mixture typically contained soil, clay, straw, animal dung, lime, and sand in various combinations, depending on local availability. Medieval construction workers were mixing mud and poop together long before modern toddlers discovered this entertaining hobby. Applying the daub was hard work, but required no special tools, just hands, a trowel, or a wooden float to smooth the surface. The mixture would be pressed into the wattle framework from both sides until it completely filled the gaps. Once dry, the walls were often lime-washed to improve weather resistance and brighten the interior. Wattle and daub houses were surprisingly comfortable. The walls provided good insulation against both heat and cold, with the daub acting as thermal mass that stabilized indoor temperatures. The breathable nature of the materials also helped regulate humidity inside the home. A well-maintained structure could last 50 to 100 years before needing significant repairs. Unlike modern construction, where you need expensive permits, medieval families could build an extension to their home literally using sticks and mud. Their homeowners association meetings were probably much more relaxed, too. One of the greatest advantages was accessibility. Virtually any family could build or repair their own home without specialized tools or expensive materials. This self-sufficiency was crucial when professional builders were scarce and transportation of heavy materials was difficult. Village records suggest that neighbors would often gather for wall-raising days, helping each other construct or repair homes in a community effort. The wattle and daub technique wasn't limited to simple peasant homes either. It was used for interior walls and grander structures, including castles and manor houses, proving its versatility and effectiveness. Even today, eco-builders are rediscovering this ancient technique for sustainable housing projects. The materials are biodegradable, locally sourced, and have minimal environmental impact, attributes that align perfectly with contemporary green building goals. While medieval people had mastered building shelter from simple materials, they also developed an impressive ability to predict changes in their environment without modern technology. Before weather apps or television forecasts existed, medieval people relied on reading natural signs to predict weather changes. This crucial skill helped them decide when to plant crops, travel safely, or prepare for storms. Through generations of observation, they developed an impressive system of weather forecasting based on clouds, animal behavior, and other natural indicators. Cloud types were observed. Low, thick clouds often meant rain, while wispy high clouds typically meant fair weather would continue. The mackerel sky, clouds that looked like fish scales, usually indicated rain within 24 hours. While modern meteorologists use million-dollar satellites to predict a 40% chance of showers, medieval people could glance at the western horizon and make plans with surprising accuracy. Animal behavior changed before storms. Birds flying low often signaled approaching rain as they avoided low air pressure. Cows lying down in fields more than usual might indicate rain was coming. Bees and butterflies disappearing from flower patches often meant storms were approaching within hours. The saying, "Red sky at night, sailors delight, red sky in morning, sailors take warning," originated during medieval times. This works because weather systems typically move west to east. A red sunset indicates dry air to the west, good weather coming, while a red sunrise suggests moisture-laden air may be approaching. Sudden pressure drops were sensed through joint pain or ear popping. Some villages had weather seers, often older folks with sensitive joints who could feel storms coming days ahead. Today's weather forecasters give a 10% chance of rain, and we pack umbrellas just in case. Medieval weather experts had to be more definitive. Give a farmer bad planting advice, and you might not be invited to the next village feast. Medieval weather watchers could predict conditions with about 80% accuracy one day ahead, helping them plan farming, fishing, or travel without forecasts. While these weather signs helped people prepare for nature's challenges, they also needed ways to escape immediate danger when trouble appeared unexpectedly. Castles and homes had hidden passages to escape attackers or raiders. These ingenious security features helped medieval people survive in dangerous times when enemies might suddenly appear at their doorstep. Castle designers created clever escape tunnels that connected to wells, forests, or nearby villages. Many tunnels extended over half a mile from the main structure, allowing castle inhabitants to flee unseen. Spiral staircases and towers almost always turned clockwise as you ascended to give right-handed defenders an advantage, but certain steps might hide secret passages to safety. Medieval lords spent more time planning escape routes than modern teenagers spend planning excuses for missing homework deadlines. Ordinary homes often had false walls hiding small spaces where valuables or people could be concealed. Some had cellars with trap doors hidden under rugs or furniture. Churches built priest holes, cleverly disguised hiding spaces with ventilation systems for times of religious persecution. Even the construction materials were selected with secrecy in mind. Wooden panels might be engineered to look solid, but actually slide or rotate to reveal openings. Stone walls sometimes contained hollow sections accessed by removing a specific brick that looked identical to all the others. The level of craftsmanship was remarkable. with some hidden doors so perfectly fitted that they remained undiscovered for centuries until modern renovations revealed them. Tunnels were designed to confuse pursuers with narrow sections, false endings, and even traps. Some featured acoustic tricks, channels in the walls that would carry voices from other parts of the building, confusing searchers. Others used the building's natural drainage systems as escape routes, though these weren't the most pleasant exit strategies. Medieval escape tunnel designers were the original subscription service providers. You paid once for security, but the maintenance fees lasted a lifetime. The knowledge of these routes was carefully guarded and passed down orally, not written down where enemies might discover them. Children would learn the secrets of their family home as part of their survival education. Archaeological excavations continue to discover previously unknown passages in medieval structures, showing just how effective this secrecy was. These ancient security concepts still influence modern safe room designs. When all other defenses failed, having a hidden exit could mean the difference between life and death. While escape routes protected medieval people from physical dangers, they also needed ways to defend against more invisible threats to their well-being. When medieval people faced health problems, they didn't have modern antibiotics or hospitals. Instead, they relied on a sophisticated system of herbal medicine and natural remedies that have since been scientifically proven effective in many cases. Garlic was perhaps the most versatile medicinal plant in the medieval toolkit. Used to treat infections and boost immunity, this pungent bulb contains allicin, a compound with antibacterial properties. Healers created garlic poultices for infected wounds or had patients consume raw cloves to fight internal infections. Medieval breath mints must have been a booming industry, considering how much garlic people were eating to stay healthy. Willow bark served as the medieval answer to aspirin. Containing salicin, a compound similar to the active ingredient in modern aspirin, willow bark was brewed into a bitter tea for headaches, fevers, and joint pain. Historical records show that willow was so highly valued that landowners would specifically plant willow trees near villages for medicinal purposes. For stopping blood flow from wounds, yarrow was the plant of choice. This common meadow plant contains compounds that constrict blood vessels and encourage clotting. Medieval battlefield medics would carry dried yarrow to press directly onto wounds, earning it the nickname soldier's woundwort across many European languages. Chamomile and mint addressed digestive issues and sleep problems. These gentle herbs were brewed as teas and given to everyone from infants with colic to elders with insomnia. Medieval doctors may not have had fancy medical degrees hanging on their walls, but they knew which plants could calm both your stomach and your mind. No prescription insurance required. For skin injuries, poultices made from herbs were applied directly to wounds. These mixtures often combine antimicrobial plants like thyme or sage with drawing agents like bread or clay, creating an environment hostile to bacteria while also absorbing wound exudates. Medieval herbalists didn't just rely on intuition, they carefully documented their findings. Herbal knowledge was passed down both orally and through simple handbooks. Monastery libraries often contain detailed medical manuscripts illustrated with plant identification guides. Some of these ingredients are still used in modern natural medicine. The World Health Organization estimates that about 25% of modern pharmaceuticals directly trace their origins to plant remedies first documented in medieval times. These 10 medieval survival techniques, from fire starting to herbal healing, demonstrate the remarkable ingenuity and practical wisdom of our ancestors, skills that remain valuable even in our modern technological world.